Okay.
Well, at least that's the one I sent her.
Okay, I just wondered if that was the issue.
Yeah.
It's recording now, Jana.
Okay, yay. Okay, we'll get started then. Forgive us for the time we've spent on housekeeping. I want to welcome everyone. This is our second general meeting Zoom call, and I'm so grateful that we've got this technology that allows us to all be together. I miss you all so very, very much, and we'll rejoice when we get to see each other in person again. I do want to encourage you to remain in service and continue to support our missions. There's so much that needs to be done. Sometimes I feel overwhelmed at how much I want to do when I'm tied to my sofa at home. Anyway, we have a great program planned for today, so let's get started. As far as the Zoom instructions go, besides Kate, another one of our church Wonder Women, Katie Stranges, trained me last week on how to host a Zoom meeting. I've participated in many Zoom calls as a participant, but not ever as a host. So please offer Kate and me grace today as we make sure we can figure this out. We're recording the meeting so it can be viewed later. Several people ask about that, and I'm excited about that technology too. We've tried to keep the mics open, but the background noise was so high that we've muted everybody. So once there's an opportunity for you to speak and you want to speak, just unmute yourself. And then you can use the chat feature if you have any questions, and we'll try to watch that. As far as announcements go, prior to the opening of the meeting, we were talking about the masks. By now, you've probably seen on Facebook some of the pictures of the 365 masks that we made that were delivered to Green Magnet Academy. There are pictures on the Facebook pages of Church Street United Methodist Women, Church Street Church, and Will Smith, who's the assistant principal we did these masks for. Many, many thanks to the following people who so lovingly offered their sewing skills and their hearts. Ann Rigo, Becky Adams, she isn't even a member, but she wanted to help. She's Lena Adams' mother. Beth Cooper Libby, Betty Craig, Judy Grubb, Ginger and Mary Kate Holiday, Nancy Carmen, Sally Leiter, and our friend Donna Mosby, who also is not a Church Street United Methodist member, but she's a membership, nurture, and outreach mission coordinator for the Tennessee Valley District UMW. And I can't remember where, but she saw us post a need and she jumped on it. So she helped too. Do look at those pictures. They'll warm your heart. Isaiah 117 house in Knoxville. Several of us have a new love. Isaiah 117 house, look that verse up, by the way. It serves children who've been removed from their homes by the Department of Children's Services. In the past, children have had to stay in office suites at the Department of Children's Services office, sometimes for days, until they're placed in a foster home. Well, this Isaiah 117 house is going to serve that role and provide physical and emotional support in a safe and loving and beautiful home during that interim period until they're placed in a foster home. We've been invited to their event they're calling Come Gather at Our Table. Oh, again, my heart is just so warmed. It's going to be Tuesday, September 22nd. And if the church is open by then, we'll find a place to gather in person. But if it's not, this will be odd to gather for lunch, but we'll gather virtually via Zoom. And we'll share a meal, a simple meal, finger foods, dessert, something like that. And there's no charge for this. It's just a way for us to learn about this mission. And I've had a preview of it, and it will pull your heartstrings, I'm telling you. So let me know if you're interested. I didn't want to bombard everybody with an invitation, but let me know if you're interested in participating, and I'll keep you posted about it as we learn more. 5-star women, for this very important mission recognition, all you need to do is give a minimum of $60 a year over and above your pledge to the 5 channels of mission giving through our local unit. Your giving supports mission projects in the United States and around the world. In the email I sent out last night with the newsletter, I included the information about it in a form. If you'll direct that form to our treasurer, Nancy Goodson, each 5-star woman will receive a certificate and a star pin in recognition of the special mission giving. But my favorite part of this process is awarding at the annual December Christmas program the recognition pin and certificate in honor of a mission or a mission-minded person that I get to select. The pin itself takes a few weeks to receive, so please complete the requirements in that form as early as you can, really by early to mid-fall, so that you can receive it in time for the December service meeting.
Jana, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I did this last year, but I apparently did it in the wrong way, and it didn't get counted. I think you have to do it in a certain way or to a certain place.
Yes. There's that form that you fill out, and it's step by step. It tells you what you have to give or have given, and then you send that form to Nancy, and Nancy actually places the order and arranges for the recognition with the district or conference.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. The form is real easy. It's just like 6 little check marks, and you can write one check and just gets designated, and it's really easy. But you're right, it has to go through that channel through the treasurer, and she notifies the up chain. Okay, I want to mention our reading program again. Please be sure and participate. I bet you're reading already most of the books on that in the program. We're almost all reading so much more than we ever have before. So let us get credit for your reading. Of course, it's for educational purposes, but consider the books on the reading list. There's several categories of interest to almost anyone, including education for mission, leadership development, nurturing the community, social action, and spiritual growth. These are some of the best books I've ever read, and I've learned so much. There's truly something for everyone. In the news, yes.
This is Jean. Can you tell us how to get the books? Do we buy them ourselves?
Well, now that's a good question. We have many of them in the church library, but we're not open. So I imagine we could contact the church office, and they could somehow arrange for us to pick one up, pick up what we need. I often want to have them and keep them and share them, and so I just usually order them off Amazon. Some of them you have to order through the UMW store, but most of them aren't very expensive, or you can check them out at a local library or our library. And if you want to find a list of those books, in the newsletter that I emailed last night, I included a link. You can literally click on that hyperlink, and it'll take you to the reading list and give you all the information about it. And there are different categories of reading. we can receive recognition for you reading as few as, I think it's 5 books, 5 books a year in the year, 1 from each category. And but trust me, when you get started, you'll want to read way more than 5. Oh, let's see. Questions. If you have any questions, Susan Dominic can help you. You can find her email and phone number in the yearbook. Pledges. Finally, my last topic. Mission giving is just as important as ever, since there's so much need out there and there's so much competition for our contributions. So please remember to email your pledge to payable to Church Street, but mail it to, Church Street UMW, but mail it to Nancy Goodson. And again, her address is in the yearbook. Okay. Do you have any questions about any of that?
Jana, we can help with the library. If you just call, if nobody answers the church phone, just leave a message, and there's somebody there in the office or around, a staff person, usually every day, and we can work that out.
Perfect. I thought so. I don't think I've asked a question, asked for anything yet. The office hasn't been able to accommodate. Let's see. Next, we want to do recognize Pat Bellingrath so she can do our devotion and cover our prayer calendar.
Good morning. From the prayer calendar today, I want us to remember our mission focus, which is the Methodist Church in Sri Lanka, which supports women and children who are widowed and orphaned by the war. And then we want to hold up Jameson Brunk, who is a home missioner, and celebrate his birthday. So we wish him a very happy birthday. And speaking of books, I had something else planned that I wanted to do today that I really liked, but I was thinking last night, and I had mentioned this to Jan, and I've been talking to a friend who's doing the study, but United Methodist Women do studies that usually last for 2 years. And the one for this year, which was started, and the people who wrote this were asked to write it 4 years ago, but can you imagine the title, how timely it is for today? Finding Peace in an Anxious World. And it is so, so good. And so I wanted really to lift this book up. 4 years ago, United Methodist Women went to a church in Chicago called the Urban Village Church. And it is a church that was formed by these 2 men and some female pastors, and it was formed in response to things that were happening in the world, in the United Methodist Church at the time, and they decided they were going to form a very inclusive, totally inclusive church, and they called it the Urban Village Church. So United Methodist Women goes to this group 4 years ago and says, would you write a study based on the Serenity Prayer? And they said yes. And the author, or the woman that edited, there were several authors, but she talks about, there's an excellent piece right now in Response Magazine, and she talks about how anxious she became writing the book, which she said elicited a whole new series of responses for her writing this book with anxiety. But anyway, it's just an excellent, excellent study. So if you're looking for something that really, really delves into an anxious time, which if you're ever in an anxious time, it is certainly now. They really respond to that and go very deep into it. It's just excellent. So I wanted to lift that book up and just encourage you to read it. And maybe I was talking to Jana last night via an email, and maybe we'll do something with it since we can't gather in person right now. But I would encourage you one way or the other to look at this book. It's called Finding Peace in an Anxious World. It's very good. And the whole book is really based on the Serenity Prayer, which was written by Reinhold Niebuhr in 1943. And here's why he wrote it, which is, he could have written it yesterday, but he wrote it in 1943 for his congregation in Heath, Massachusetts. He wanted this prayer to help his congregation resist the forces of intolerance, anti-Semitism, xenophobia, which were all threatening to consume America with fear while the world warred. So he wrote the Serenity Prayer for his congregation to help them resist the forces that were at work in the world, which we see a lot of those forces at work today. So I'd like to end the devotion with a prayer, but first, before I do that, we all know the Serenity Prayer, but I want to recite it just right now. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Let us pray. God of all, we are here today. We are where we need to be. Everything around us includes and hides the sacred. The sacred is everywhere, even in our experiences we don't understand or would rather not have. We are listening. We welcome the different emotions, even the ones that we find so difficult. We acknowledge them and fit them to whatever truth we are experiencing in this moment. We ask you, God, to help us let go of the desire for security, affection, control, and that we let go of the desire to change the things we are experiencing. We release ourselves physically and emotionally and use our prayers to speak of our deep and longing and needs to you, O God. May we continue to work towards wholeness and healing for ourselves. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, Jana.
Thank you, Pat. Next, let's do joys and concerns. Very briefly, because we want to get on to the speaker. If you have a joy or concern, please mention it now, and just don't forget to unmute your mic.
Somebody has a birthday and they're on the screen. Donna McConnell has a birthday today. And Susie Patton also has a birthday today. She was on for a minute or two, but she left. But it's Donna McConnell's birthday also today.
Thank
Happy
you,
birthday.
Ann. Thanks.
Happy birthday, Donna.
Thank you very much. My birthday is full of Zoom calls today. Hopefully there'll be some fun later.
Anybody else?
Jana, I have a concern. I just spoke with my 50-year-old niece last night, and she has the virus. She got it from her 21-year-old son, who came back home to live at home for the summer. And she's hanging in there. I mean, this is day 8, I believe, but she went into great detail about what the stages were, what happened first and then next. And so now she's still lost her sense of taste and smell, but she has a very positive attitude and is confined to her bedroom where her husband has taken food into her. So everything is, as well as can be expected, but it's tough. It really is. I finally know someone who has the virus, and it's a family member, 2 family members. So just pray for her. She's a wonderful lady, and I know I'm partial, but she's a fantastic person.
It's a scary time. That's my biggest fear right now, I think. Anybody else? Well, I have
I'm sorry, Jen, if we're doing concerns, we all need to be in pray, as a youth director at a former church said, pray without ceasing. Catherine, Jane, pray without ceasing for all of the teachers and students and administrators and janitors and bus drivers and everybody that are getting what they're getting ready to face in this month. Maybe, maybe not, but maybe. This is huge. And every single one of them needs our prayers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ann. I'm aware of a few since our last meeting I wanted to mention. Vicki Shelton's uncle died recently. Lisa Stanley's daughter, Abby, got married. That's a joy on July 18th to Holden Gerald's. I don't know if y'all saw this, but Reverend Don Chesser's father, Reverend Lewis Chesser Jr., died on July 20th. Let's see, Verna McLean's lake house, the guest house there, flooded recently and destroyed all of her memorable items inside. So she's devastated about that. Sharon Murphy was recently hospitalized. I was trying to find out more about that, and that's all I know. I hope somebody can fill us in. Loretta Beth's niece, Betty Jo Huffstetler, died on August 1st. Pat Clendenin's dad fell recently. I hope he's doing better. Pat's on, so maybe she'll fill us in. And then our members with cancer that we always pray for, Lisa Stanley, Pam Reeves, and Joan Brown. Her name's not Brown, Joan O'Kane, sorry. I've known her forever, so Brown is how I think of her. And so Pat, can you tell us about your dad? Is he doing better?
Yes, he is. He's back at the point now. And when I saw him 2 days ago, he was better than he's been in a long time. So we're feeling very positive about that. Thank you, Janet.
Good, Pat. What about Sharon Murphy? Does anybody know more about her?
I haven't talked. They did a full battery of tests on her. And in fact, I have a note to myself to call her today to see what she found out. But they were trying to find out what was going on and what was causing the problems that sent her to the hospital to begin with.
Will you keep us posted and let us know if there's anything we can do? Okay.
I'll let you know what I find out.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'm going to have...
Jana, I've got two. David Leinenberger, Nancy's husband, many of you know. David recently had a heart stent put in, the one artery that's still left to his heart. Has very severe heart issues. He's diabetic. He's got something else too. Oh, Crohn's disease, I believe. He's just really, and this has been a real big setback. It happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I just found out about it last week in a Zoom call with Soup Kitchen volunteers. So David and Nancy need our prayers. They have not really been leaving the house much except to go to the doctor's appointments. And also Clady Word, Frank's wife. Clady she was in the hospital. She's out and back home, but they've gotten a hospital bed for her. And from what I found out at Soup Kitchen, the Soup Kitchen thing, both these came from that Zoom call. Frank's very frustrated and worried about her because she's just not eating. She's being kind of like take a bite or two and then just quit. So we need to keep them in our prayers.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks. Anybody else? So Elaine, will you introduce our speaker?
Elaine, you need to unmute yourself.
Elaine is on an iPad and a cell phone, and I know she's trying to make this work. So let's give it a second or 2 or 50.
I don't remember what her phone number is.
It's that 966 number. And
Okay.
it's still muted.
Okay. I unmuted her.
Hey, Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, everybody. You know, when you've got a phone and you got the computer just so you can connect. All right, I'm here. Our speaker today is quite an impressive person, so it's going to be a real treat. When we are together again, I want you to say thank you to Sue Piper, who recommended her as a speaker for our UMW General Meeting. Elisa Panzellin Randall grew up here in Knoxville and took swimming classes at the YWCA, and she participated in the Y-Teens. She attended St. Joe's School, Knoxville Catholic High School, and Rhodes College. The influence of her early connection with the YWCA continued as an adult. She was a board member of the YWCA Tampa Bay on the National Coordinating Board of YWCA USA, and now serves as the CEO of YWCA Knoxville and Tennessee Valley. She has 20 plus years of community outreach and leadership experience spanning social services, pediatric health care, higher education, visual and performing arts, and racial and social justice. Elisa has served on multiple advisory councils and boards, including South St. Petersburg Community Redevelopment Area Citizen Advisory Committee, the Suncoast chapter of the Association of Fundraising Professionals, Rotary Club of St. Petersburg, Pinellas County Urban League, and is a past president of the Florida Federation of Business and Professional Women's Clubs. And this advocates for equity of all women in the workplace. In well-deserved recognition of her accomplishments, Elisa was named Tampa Bay Business Journal's 30 Under 30 list. Eckerd College faculty named her Staff Member of the Year. She was one of 5 local heroes in Pinellas County in the Bank of America's Neighborhood Excellence Initiative Awards. She received the Racial Justice Award from the YWCA of Tampa Bay. Elisa returned to Knoxville and is a volunteer in the Leaders for Readers program at Inskip Elementary, a member of the Executive Women's Association, a board member of the Knoxville Chamber of Knoxville Chamber of Commerce, and a graduate of Leadership Knoxville's class of 2020. She became the CEO of the YWCA Knoxville and Tennessee Valley in 2018, and under her leadership, the YWCA was named a 2019 top workplace by the Knoxville News Sentinel. One last accomplishment I would like to share. She climbed to the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro, 19,340 feet in 2006. As I said before, she is impressive. Welcome, Elisa. And I'm going to hang up on the phone so I can follow this on the computer from here on out. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you so much, Elaine. I need to have you do my introductions everywhere. It made me smile the way that you delivered it. Thank you so much. I feel very welcomed, and I have enjoyed observing and listening to your meeting. I needed that piece this morning. One thing that I didn't add in my intro that I gave to Elaine was the fact that I have 2 children. I'm a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they have been quarantined together since mid-March. So they're exciting to be around. That's the best way to put it, probably. So I find respite, if you can believe it, coming to work. I'm in my work office here downtown. And then being able to just be present on phone calls like this. So I thank you for letting me be a part of it and being able to witness what you do in your meetings. As she mentioned, I grew up here in Knoxville. Technically, I grew up in Powell in the Broad Acres neighborhood. And oddly enough, we ended up buying a house a half mile down the road from the house I grew up in, where my parents still live. So I'm very fortunate that my children get to see my parents pretty often, at least 4 days a week. And in this time of COVID-19, they've been seeing them even more. Now, granted, that means we have to quarantine even more carefully, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So I know that many of you individually and collectively as a group, whether it's this group or other groups you're a member of, have been supporters of YWCA. So first I want to say thank you, and I appreciate all that you've done, and whether it's been a financial donation, in-kind donation, or if you have attended our events like our Keys of Hope luncheon, which happens to be virtual this year, and it's coming up in 2 days. So keep your fingers crossed for us. It's our first ever, as many nonprofits, first ever virtual platform. So we'll see how that goes. That's typically held in May, but as with many other nonprofits, we had to shuffle and be flexible. And so here we are in August doing a virtual fundraiser. But I just first want to say thank you for your support and everything that you've done to take care of my YW. She mentioned that I started swimming here. I was 6, and the routine was that my dad would we'd swing by the library right around the corner. We would rent VHS tapes. Of course, my kids have no idea what that is, but VHS tapes. We'd watch musicals, and then we'd come over to the YWCA for swim lessons. And that was my routine for a long time. But I am always very appreciative of those who have kept this YW going. And I know many of you on this call attest to that. And I'm also very grateful for those who have done what they've done for the city of Knoxville, and just to see how it's grown. I'm in my early 40s, and so to see what has happened with the city of Knoxville in 25, 30 years has been amazing. So thank you for all that you've done to make that happen. So I know that probably some of what I'll tell you today, you could probably recite it with me because you know everything or know a little something about what the YW does, but hopefully I'll share a little bit more about some things that we've been working on in the past several years. And then of course, recently with how COVID-19 has been affecting our women, children, and families. So I'll start with our mission. Our mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. It's a very all-encompassing mission, and some people say, wow, how do you do that? And I say, well, what better mission to have than I can get out of bed, put my feet on the floor, and feel really good that this is what I get to work to do all day. And these are the people that I get to work with, my colleagues. This is what they're out accomplishing on the front line and working with their clients. So it's a mission that's easy to get behind. And we've been around since 1899. We've been in this downtown building at the corner of Walnut and Clinch since 1925. And this building is feeling every bit of its age. Some of you probably been in here. And when I came in, when I came in for my last interview before I was hired for this position, I walked up the stairs, and my first comment, I probably shouldn't have said it, but my first comment was, wow, nothing's changed. It smells exactly the same. I could smell the chlorine coming up from the swimming pool. I could smell the age of the walls. But there's something comforting in that, and we've been living our mission this entire time. So I like to say that even though we're an institution, we are unafraid of innovation, and you can tell that through the number and types of programs that the YWCA has carried all of these decades. We serve 6 counties, so we're in Knox County, Anderson, and then Blount, Loudoun, Roane, and Sevier. And rather than me telling you about every single program we have, because I could be here for another 2 hours, I like to describe what we do in 3 buckets, 3 areas. And some you may be familiar with, some may be new to you. So our housing program, our Keys of Hope housing program, which is downtown here, it is mixed in with our administrative offices. So on the third and fourth floors, we have our Keys of Hope women's program, which serves 58 women at any given time. We're available in that program 24/7, 365. And these women, they've hit a low point in their lives, and they really need a hand. They need someone to help them get back on their feet. They can stay with us for up to 2 years, and they don't have to have one particular thing that's happened to them. I think what makes our program so unique is that it could be one or a combination of things. It could be job loss, addiction, mental health issues. It could be problems with, we have a program that works with incarcerated women. So some of them could be domestic violence. Some of them have been affected by one or all of those things. So that's our transitional housing on-site program. We also have a scattered site transitional housing program that's based in Anderson County. And the way that works is that if you're fleeing a domestic violence situation, and it's typically women with young children, we haven't had an occasional man with children, we work with landlords around in several counties. We have good relationships with them where they'll put the lease in the client's name, and then we will pay the initial deposit, first few months of rent to get them back on their feet. And some people will ask, well, why don't you have a shelter? Like, well, the thing is with shelters, and shelters are very much needed. Those are very much an emergency situation. What do you do after that time? And then especially if you have children with you, ideally, you want to be able to establish your own footing, get on your own footing. So we've had extreme success with that, and the stories are very heartwarming of what happens with women when they are able to feel that freedom, safety, and independence from their abuser. Next, I'll move on to the area of our victim advocacy program. So that's been going on for about 35 years. And our victim advocates are super effective. They work in the city county building, at the Family Justice Center. They also work specifically with Hispanic Latina communities, and then our immigrant refugee communities. And so they really are a resource for many of these women who are struggling with leaving. We have many clients who it takes them several times to believe in themselves and to say, this is enough and it's time for me to do something about it. And they need someone to help guide them through that journey. Because oftentimes it's not a short one, it's a very long process. So we're very proud of our advocacy program and the number of community partnerships we've built through that. And then last but certainly not least is our area of youth development. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our Phyllis Wheatley Center. We're celebrating our 100th anniversary of our Phyllis Wheatley Center being in the East Knoxville community. We actually have a building that was built in the early 60s, right off of Martin Luther King. It's on Cruz Street, just a few blocks down from Vine Middle School. And there we serve anywhere between 100 to 120 youth and their families during the school year in an after-school program setting. And then in the summertime, we offer summer camp to all ages. Now, as you can imagine, with the pandemic, we follow the Knox County School schedule. And so we have been out since mid-March. So we haven't been offering after-school programming because there's no school. And we made the hard decision, of course, not to offer summer camp. But we have been very creative about how we have reached out to the families. Individual phone calls, finding out what kind of specific direct assistance we can help them with. And prior to unemployment kicking in, many of them needed help just with getting food on the table. They have large families. They're taking care of an older generation, younger generation. And so it has evolved since March in terms of their needs, and we've been with them every step of the way. So we're highly anticipating August 24 when school allegedly goes back into session. So we're just waiting. And so we're making many different kinds of arrangements that we never thought we would have to do in order to be ready for the kids who have decided to do remote learning. And so This will be an interesting combination of kids who will be at Vine during the school day, those who decide not to be at Vine but need somewhere other than home to be, so that we're hoping that they'll come to us. And so the part of our mission that so many people have asked until this summer, how do you address eliminating racism? And I used to ask that of myself. I was on the national board when the YWCA decided to shift to a logo that prominently put in place eliminating racism and empowering women in the actual YWCA logo. And there were many who wondered, what a lofty goal. How in the world are we going to do that? So we have taken it on, and we've been very pointed this past summer with the various tragedies that have happened across the country. And we put out a 21-day racial equity and social justice challenge. I don't know if any of you joined it, but it was a real, it was a way for someone to commit that they would just commit to reading 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes of something that would test their minds, test their hearts around anti-racism. And we had about 1,200 people in the community also join us. And so we had some interesting findings and responses from that and some next steps. So I share all of that, and I could talk for much longer. And I find that in Zoom calls, because there's not a lot of responding live that you feel that you could just talk and there's no one there to stop you unless they just hang up on you. So someone interrupt me, and if you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to ask.
Elisa, I have a question.
Hi.
So my name's Beth,
Hi, Beth.
and I wanted to ask you, on your victim advocacy program, where do you obtain the people that you work with for that? Is that from the court system, or?
It comes from a lot of places. We get a lot of, we work very well with our community partners. So there's a lot of referrals that happen. So it just really comes from everywhere. Word of mouth is huge, really across all of our programs, our homeless programs, even for the victim advocacy. Because the big thing that many of our clients are looking for is someone they can trust. So rather than just becoming a part of, well, sign me up here and I'll become a number in a line, they ask around. And so we have a good reputation of just being able to, if we can't offer the service, of being able to point you to a community partner that is ready for you. There's a big difference between having a long list of resources and then actually knowing the quality of what's on that list, and if those people are ready to receive a client, are ready to give them what they need that day. Because there's nothing like calling someone and they say, sorry, we don't have any space. Let me give you another phone number. Let me connect you to someone else. And what happens there is that a client will get frustrated and then just drop the process altogether. So what we try to do is we try to be that extra hand that's going to keep motivating them to continue getting away from the life. But really, referrals come from everywhere. I know that sounds so blanket, but we really get them from former survivors, who say, you know what, let me put you in touch with someone at the YW, and we take it.
Elisa, I have a question. This is Celia.
Hi, how are you?
So whenever I was active in Y-Teens back in the 50s and 60s, mostly in the 60s, the Phyllis Wheatley branch, I noticed you said was established in 1960.
The building, that particular building, but it's been around for 100 years.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then that helps me, because I was not aware of it back whenever I was a teenager. And my assumption is, or when I learned about it, was that it was a tool for segregation. So how do y'all work with it as a separate entity now? And do you have Black and Latina women involved in the housing program. I mean, I guess I'm just really curious about the way that the anti-racism or eliminating racism focus intersects with the fact that we have a separate Phyllis Wheatley branch that's primarily for our Black sisters.
Mhm. So when I came on board, this was one of the reasons that when the board of directors interviewed me and hired me, they said, we really want to focus on this piece of our mission. How are you going to help us do that? And so this is what I love. This is a passion for me. So over time, I've been here 2 years. My 2-year anniversary was August 1st. Is how let's try to get out of the mindset of the Phyllis Wheatley Center being a separate entity and it being more of one of our programs. And so I'll give an example. So for our Keys of Hope luncheon that's coming Thursday, our Keys of Hope luncheon is celebrating its 10th anniversary. And it was initially founded because we wanted to have something that bore the name of our Keys of Hope Women's Housing Program. And it would, to the public, it would appear as if the money that we're raising for that is going to our signature housing program. So when I got here, I said, well, let's use this as an opportunity because we have 700 people at the Knoxville Convention Center. Let's use this as an opportunity to tell them about all of our programs. Let's, to say, we're not just about a housing program. We're also about what we do out in Oak Ridge and Anderson County. We're about what we do at the Phyllis Wheatley Center. And it's just as important because we're all part of the same. So we try to, from an internal standpoint, look at it that way as well. So we're not just having these compartmentalized, this is just for you and this is just for you and the makeup is here. So we have a fairly diverse staff. We have, in terms of race, in terms of age, at 43, I'm one of the old girls. So it's good. I mean, I think it's a good reflection of the community that we serve. But we do things like, let's have meetings over at the Phyllis Wheatley Center. Our board meets quarterly, or actually I think it's maybe every other month, we're meeting at the Phyllis Wheatley Center. So trying to do those tiny little things, not just the big events, not just let's show up at Phyllis Wheatley for our Diversity Day Race Against Racism event in January, and then that's all you do. So I think it's about consistency, and it's about being genuine as well, especially with staff. They want to know that leadership truly cares about integrating and incorporating and involving them in the process. Does that get to your question?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And as a 43-year-old, you're much younger than Mrs. Gamble was for all those many years.
Anybody else? I'd like to add that if anybody wants to join in on the Keys of Hope luncheon call, and no obligation to give, but it's more of I would love feedback. I'm just so anxious and curious how the virtual piece is going to turn out. So I'll be happy to send that email link, and maybe somebody can send it out to everybody just for it. And it's not going to last more than 45 minutes because it's going to be on a virtual platform, but it's a mix of live streaming with pre-recorded video. So we're just eager for feedback from people of what did they think. Virtual fundraising seems to be the thing.
Will you tell us the date of that again?
It's actually in 2 days. It's this Thursday, and it starts at 11:30.
Okay, so I'm gonna, once we get that link,
Okay.
We'll get it posted for our members to know. We'll get it posted on the Church Street UMW Facebook page. Okay. because with it being in just 2 days, I'm afraid we will have trouble getting it out to everybody otherwise.
Sure.
So if you'll get that link to Elaine, we'll share it on the Facebook page.
Will do.
Lisa,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Judy.
Hi there.
I think I heard you say that students from Vine who are doing the virtual learning are going to be doing that at Phyllis Wheatley.
We're going to give them that option.
Okay.
We know that maybe not everybody will take us up on it. Some will just want to stay home. But we know that after talking with some of our parents, that because they have to continue working, or they may have there may be too many kids in the home for their child to focus, they need some assistance. We're going to offer that to 40 kids to be able to do their remote learning at the Phyllis Wheatley Center during the day. Because my understanding is that they have to do it during a certain time frame. It has to be done during certain blocks from 8:30 to noon, something like that. So we're going to have that available, socially distance, all of the things, so that their parents feel safe and healthy.
I think that's so interesting because my daughter is a former teacher at Vine, and she's not there now. But you know, I'm so glad to know that someplace in Knoxville, and there are probably other places doing this too, but that is kind of some forward thinking that I've heard in different parts of the country, where they're utilizing buildings and large areas and staff people who can come in and help those kids with that virtual learning, because just like you said, their circumstances, there's not going to be an adult there or a parent or a grandparent. I just feel like kids are going to fall through the cracks if they don't have somebody that can at least you know, operate those kind of programs. That's really great to know. That's really a good thing. That's great.
Something we've talked about is we know that there's a lot of concern around academic regression, but there's also concern over behavioral, mental, emotional, all of it together. And so, you know, we don't want to defeat the purpose of having kids socially distanced, picking the remote learning because their families want them to social distance.
Right.
But we know that some of them, they need an adult. They need a caring adult.
Right.
So that's what we're going to try to be.
I think that's very progressive, forward thinking. That's great.
Thank you. I saw a question in the chat from Elaine. And so I always liken these types of questions to what keeps me up at night. I think she asked a challenge, like what's the biggest challenge? Oh, well, I thought I had an answer before COVID-19, but I think I'm going to say COVID-19 keeps me up at night for various reasons. And it's because it's the unknown. I think it's because, you know, right now I would be planning our budget for our 2021 year, because we run on a January to December calendar. And I could budget just like I did last year, but this year's budget's out the window. You know, so you just kind of, okay, well, I'll try to be as flexible as possible. We receive a number of federal and state grants, and honestly, that has really been a saving grace for us at this time, because they've been flexible with outcomes, numbers of people served, and so we've been lucky for that. When of course private donations dip. So I think it's when you lead a nonprofit, you're worried about everyone and everything. Worried about staff because they too are affected by COVID. Worried about your personal situation. My 8-year-old is remote learning. My 3-year-old is being 3-year-old. my husband works from home. And so all of us we're probably on each other. We're on each other's nerves, and so taking that into the professional setting. So it's a lot of things. But I think the community has been very responsive. Funders like United Way and other foundations have pivoted their giving to COVID-19 emergency giving. And so we, as many other nonprofits, have been very lucky that they've decided to do that. I don't know, that's not just one challenge, but I think, a global pandemic will just throw you a curveball, and it's a good test of everything. Let's see, someone else had a chat question. How do I use volunteers? How do we use volunteers? So we thrive on our volunteers. We have been we've had a pause button put on our volunteer situation because much of what we do is on the individual level or small group level. Because we have people living in our downtown building, we've been very cautious for everybody involved, not to have a lot of people from the public come in, because we just don't want to test the waters in that respect. But we can use volunteers for a variety of things. We have had some people be very creative with what they're able to do on teaching videos. We had someone do arts and crafts for some of our ladies who really enjoyed that. We have Girl Scout troops who write sweet sentiments in cards and leave them for all the ladies in 58 mailboxes. When we have in-kind donations coming in, when it's clothing, we have to dry every single piece and put them through the dryer. So we have students who come in to earn hours, and they sit there in front of the dryers and they just dry clothes. So there's a variety of things. And then, of course, we have lots of different events during the year where we could also use volunteers.
Speaking of volunteers, it's difficult for me to offer this because, as you can see from our pictures on the participant screen, many of us are in the compromised category as far as age goes, or medical conditions. So I don't know how much help we could be until things clear up some. But as far as your Vine program, that has Church Street UMW written all over it for helping with the children from Vine in your facility. If there's something you can think of that we could do remotely, or once things open up some and we're more comfortable getting out, will you keep us in mind?
I sure will. We also imagine it might. Absolutely. One thing that someone was talking about, we'd have to figure out how to make this work, is tutoring. Some kids will need a little bit of extra tutoring, and how will that happen in this remote environment? Or just an extra somebody to go through some of their subjects with them. So that might be another possibility. But thank you. Keep that in mind.
And there's another question, I don't know if you've seen it yet, from Sue Piper in the chat.
Okay.
I was just asking about your housing program.
Sure. So in our on-site program, that's the one that's downtown, we have 58 units. So at any given time, there's 58 ladies here. And we can use a variety of things for them, especially right now. We keep a food pantry stocked with dry goods because it's very much like dorm living. So you're responsible for feeding yourself, and but in terms of like hygiene products, and you name it, feminine hygiene, toothpaste, toothbrushes, those are always in need. And then, of course, once the woman leaves here and moves into a permanent housing situation, we have some very generous donors who put together like little baskets, like home like a good luck moving into your new home kind of basket. So that's always a welcome thing. But I mentioned earlier, just like little notes, little nice sentiments. You would be amazed at how far that goes for someone just to, I think any of us, something shows up in the mailbox that's not a political ad or some kind of sales coupon or something, and it's a personal note, it means a lot. Well, it really means something to these ladies. Some of them have no one. So we have people who will get together a group and they'll just put, just, hey, you're a fabulous woman. It's going to be a great day. Just something nice, handmade note, and that too also goes a long way. So everything from clothes to help with any job interviews or even the current place that they work, to some of the food items and hygiene items that I mentioned, to just even writing those nice little care cards. Those are the things that they can do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Jean, did you have a question?
I did. I didn't understand the name of the program that you mentioned to Elisa before Sue's question.
The Vine student.
The Vine students. Okay.
Virtual
Yeah,
learning
Okay.
at the Phyllis Wheatley.
And as far as Phyllis Wheatley, I've just heard of it. I really don't know anything about it. Are there residents there?
No, that is more of an after-school programming program. But what it is if you look at the property, it consists of one large building that has a huge gymnasium in it. It's a 2-story building. First floor, gymnasium. Second floor has like a game room, arts and crafts room, workout room, computer lab, and then some staff offices. We have a modular classroom in the back. There's a community garden, and then there's like an eating area outside. So it's very much a community center when the kids aren't there, because we'll have church services, birthday parties, baby showers, people using it. The table tennis, don't call them ping pong, just so you know. The table tennis team here in Knoxville, they use the gym floor. They use the space for practice sessions. So it's truly a community center, and it's really for our youth and family development.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do you have a clothing closet, especially for like career clothes for interviews?
We do. We have a little boutique. We have been on pause with the in-kind donations, but if you want to start saving, feel free. And then once we open the doors, we'll be happy to take them. We do. We have a boutique that we open to the women, and they can come in and pick shoes, accessories, business suits for some of them who are in that kind of line of work. So yes, we sure do. And we have women of all shapes and sizes and ages and preferences and styles.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so very much for such an informative program. Having been a Y teen a few years ago myself, I'm real familiar with the YWCA, but you sure taught us a lot today.
Good.
So we appreciate your involvement and your presence with us.
Well, thank you. And I just have to share, my first day here, I walked up the stairs and they have one of these like photo glass boxes that are filled with old YWCA photos, many of them white. And I look closely and I said, who's that girl with her pink sponge curlers? And it was me. And of course, the public relations person, she thought it would be a hoot if she could find old photos of me as a Y teen, my Y teen formal pre-E regalia. So there's lots of pictures of me and no makeup and curlers and things that I wouldn't be very proud to be seen in, but that's okay. It's a good memory, and I really appreciate again this opportunity to share with you about the YW. And once things are back to normal, some kind of normal, we would love to have you over, and I'll be sure to keep these volunteer opportunities in mind, and I'll share that link for our luncheon on Thursday.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
You too. So a few closing comments. Please keep on your calendar a date, special date, I hope, September 8th for our September general meeting and program. Lisa Stanley and her daughter Abby Stanley Geralds from Stanley's Greenhouse will be presenting, hopefully. Watch the messenger for updates. In the past, Lisa has done a great program, Elaine was telling me, on the pollinators or the plants that attract pollinators. And so I can see a direct tie-in there to our concern about the environment. So I don't know what her topic will be this time yet, but I'm sure it will be interesting. So that's September 8th at 11, and hopefully we'll be able to figure out how to do something by Zoom if we're not able to gather together in person. Let's see here. Don't forget to let me know about your interest in Isaiah House, please, in that luncheon program. And if you don't have anything else, I just want to thank you again for participating today. I always pray for your health and safety, always.
Jana, one question. I was called away on a phone call that I couldn't not take. When you're going to have this recorded, when and how could I hear the program?
As I understand it, I don't know if Kate's still on. I can't see that screen.
Yeah.
Right. But they keep it, they record it, they have it on the cloud at church. And I haven't done this before, but I'm told that there'll be a link available, and we'll send it out or put it on the Facebook page so that you can just click the link. I think it's super easy.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't know for sure where to go.
Yeah,
so you'll put it on what, United Methodist Women's page?
I will send it to Katie, and
okay,
she can do that. Is she on the, I guess she can access the UMW page.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Please find at least one thing in that long newsletter I sent last night that you can do to enrich the life of someone else. In doing so, you'll be so rewarded. And y'all, I've learned so much by being on all the links and emails for UMW, and I can't help but try to share in its 11-page brevity a few of the things that I think apply to what we do, our purpose, and so do take a look at that, and I know you'll find one thing that you can do. I know you'll be rewarded by that. And being there's no other business unless someone has something else, I think we're ready to close. I appreciate you participating.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jana.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jana.
You're welcome. Thank you, Kate, for staying on.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Everybody be safe.
Bye.
Great program.
It's wonderful, wonderful.